Hi everyone. In this tutorial, we're going to talk about REST APIs and perform CRUD operations using .NET Minimal APIs. So, what is an API? It stands for Application Programming Interface, and it's a way of communication between a client and a server. Usually, a client would request a server to provide some data or information, and then the server would respond it back. Um, The request usually, can be done in four ways, although it can be done in multiple ways, but these are like the four most common way of requesting a server. That's why it's called CRUD. Um, Create, read, update, delete. It would generally be a record or list of records in a database, but what we are doing today, it would be just stored in a list like an in-memory list, but in the later tutorial, um, we'll do it from a database. Um, so create is synonym of like post in um, REST API. Um, Similarly, read is get, update is post, delete is simply delete. So the client would make either of these requests and the server would respond back usually with a body. Uh, and a response type or response message. So that's it for theory. Let's start and I'll launch Visual Studio and create a new project. I'll create .NET. I'll pick the empty template. I'll name this as, let's say, book store web API because I'll be creating some book objects and then right and .NET 7 is fine. So just couple of pointers. Program.cs is the main file where the application begins. Then in the properties, that's your launch settings, most related to when your application is getting launched, generally in your local environment. The app settings, and then your um, the dev settings. We'll talk more about this maybe in another tutorial, probably not this one. And another important thing is our URI, Uniform Resource Identifier. So if I go to launch settings, and by the way, once you create your application, you could have a different port, but ignore it. Just use it whatever you got. So for instance, um, this um, once we create our API, we could call if that's books. So this would be like a valid URI, and that's your HTTP is your protocol. This is your domain, which is localhost, along with the port, and that's the resource we would be requesting for, right? So to begin with, I'll in the project I'll create a new folder. I'll call this as entities, and the first one would be like a books or book and our ID for the book, maybe title. I will force this to be like required, maybe not description, maybe the author, right? I'll make it must as well, and maybe something like No, int publish year maybe, right? That's it. Now let's go on the program.cs and create a list of some books, right? And then we will fetch that using API, get API. We will add some books to that list using post API and things like that. So that's the agendas for today. So book, and that wouldn't show up here because I haven't used the using statement for the namespace. So I will do that. That came up here, and now I can simply add a list of books. I'd call it as books, and then I'll just create new, and um, once I create, I won't leave it empty. Not sure. Okay, right. So I will add a book, right? And the book would be ID 1. What else? Title. I have copied the name of two books from Google, so I'll just take them over here, and the author, that's that, and the published year, like 2016, and just at least I should add two, right? And I'll take that one as well. That's that. Okay, I will collapse that. So just to show, I should have maybe shown this earlier, but so once we hit the API, this is that comes out of the box. So if I maybe run the application and let me open a Postman, right? If I open the Postman now, I've mentioned if I go to View, Social Explorer, Launch Settings, uh, I've mentioned if I query this, if I'm again saying query because I'm coming from a database background. So as you can see, if I hit the URL, that's what it's giving me, returning me, right? Hello world. Now I just turn off this thing, comment that out. Now what we're trying to achieve is something similar, but something if I query or if I hit that URL, I get a list of books or as a JSON object, right? So and another thing, if you're querying a method, that would the summary inside the method would guide you like what you need to provide. So the pattern, let's say for this one would be books, right? And that's it. And then the second one is if you see that's the delegate. So I would write a delegate using a lambda expression. So the delegate gets executed when the endpoint is matched. So for us, we're not taking any parameters and just passing out the books, right? Now if I execute this and I go up here, right? But instead I would also provide this in the get method, and as you can see, voila, this time you've got two records, exactly what we had mentioned in our list. So that's not too bad. Next, I guess that's fine. I'll comment this out saying get all books. But now let's say I want get a book by ID. So for that, it's not much different. And in here, I have to provide a parameter, and then same parameter comes here. And this should match exactly this. And then I can use maybe some link saying that books dot find, and so it returns a book. That's fine, right? So, and again inside this, that takes another predicate like a. So what I would say is I would, sorry, not game, book. I would pass a book such that if the ID of that book matches the ID that we have passed in, then just return me that book. Right? So if I re-execute that, where we go to Postman, right? And this time instead of, now if I hit the URL just like that, that's fine. But if I provide it like something one, I get this. If I provide it like a two, I get this. But let's say what if I provide like a three? Now that's fine, but the status of 200, okay. I mean, let's say not particularly okay with that. How do we, let's say, fix that? So I guess we can do something like this. If I just take out this and extend this, right? Now, potentially I can capture this book, right? And then once I've captured this into a variable, I'll just check if the book is null. Do one thing as if it's not null, return a book, but maybe because I this time want to have an OK message, so I would pass that like this, and at the same time like not found. Right now if I relaunch the application, go to Postman, and this time if I come here, um, like one should work fine, two should work fine, but if I hit again query, if I hit three, like this time you see you get like not found. Oh, that's good. Now the next would be post. That's when you want to add like a new book to this list. So how would you do that? It's not very different, right? So post a book, and the way you would do is the method for that is map post. And again, I generally, if I am not sure what the method is, so I generally, would press F12 and read what's under the hood, maybe look for some examples on the web. But for this one, like because since I've used it a couple of times, I know like how you use it. So that's books. And now in the so very similar approach. Now the thing is, I would need a book coming from the body of the put method, and once I get the book, I would add that so I would add the to the uh why I have called game, I'm not sure. So I would add that to the book, right? But before adding that, what we would like to do is from the API in the body, we only would be providing all the attributes except all the properties except the ID because that's something we would like to generate, right? Just like as in a database identity column would do, right? So I would do something like this. So from the books, I would find the maximum, right? And because this returns me the maximum integer, right? Like books.max is that would be the maximum integer. That's again a lambda expression. We provide a book such that the book ID and then that's the max for it, right? So I'll just add one to it, right? That's and then we just add a book to it. That's all good, but and I want to send a response back as well, saying, okay, this was the book provided in the post, and this is something we have added as well. So for that, I think one way could be like okay book, but I think a better way of that would be doing something like created at route and s- so again I just want to show like the intelligence shows me um but it's not. No, yeah, there you go. So the route endpoint name, and since I would like to use the uh, get endpoint to sort of hit that again to tell us what got created, right? um Actually, what I'll do is maybe just leave that for now and show you how it works without doing anything. So if I run the application, right, and let's open up the Postman. So we have been doing get, right? So if I do get one, two, that's fine. If I do three, it's gonna give me maybe an error. Yes. Now let's say we would like to post a book. So for that, we just change the method to post. And in the post, as we know, we're not providing the ID, uh, but the body. Let's query that again so I can copy the body. I have copied it. Let's go to the post. Once we go to the post, put the body here as a raw and text. And then since we're not providing the ID, just omit that. And for the title, like just maybe, just new book added author. That's me. Why not? Right? So let's put post that. Now I've posted that like unsupported media type. Maybe because I haven't responded back, but what I would be more interested in, because I know the logic that I've written, the ID should be three. So if I go back to this get and let's hit the get request, and there you go. Voila. All right, so I guess I was doing it wrong because in the row I had selected text. I have to select JSON to while I'm passing the body, I have to select it as JSON. So if I do it again, like just to show you, um, maybe I'll pause the application, run it back again, and if I just query hit hit it with parameter one, I get this. But let's say if I get it, do it with three, I get like not found response. Now if I in the body, if I pass this, and as I mentioned, I'm not uh, giving ID because that's generated by code and raw and JSON, but the method is going to be post and not doing this. So that got posted, right? But how do I confirm that? I do it like this, and there you go. And likewise, if I wanted to add, let's say, another one, I would come like, let's say, just two, maybe I've just add two, right? And just post this. I know for a fact that this has been posted, but it wouldn't it be nice if I could like get a response uh, in the body, like response body as well, showing me, yeah, this has been done. But we'll achieve that now. But if I just point it at four, as you can see, like this has been assigned number four. So to achieve that, what I can do is return results. Okay, but that uh, let's actually try what it returns, right? If I now try it this way, and now one question, if I get with 4, what you think I would return? And I'd argue I won't return anything because obviously because I've restarted the app, so I shouldn't get anything, right? But let's say I just post this without the 2, I remove this, and if I post this, I am getting the response, which is not bad, but generally I have seen it in the other way as well, which is, let me stop the app. What you can do is in the from the results, you say you provide the created, and then you, so these are like few of the, that's the route name, that's the route values, and let's try. So I would name, because what we want to do is query the get from here as well. The first argument is the get endpoint. Second is the object needed to call the get endpoint, and uh, the third is the actual object created, right? I would name the get one just like with name, and that just takes a string, right? That just takes a string endpoint name, right? I can do is maybe come up here and like something like const string get book and point name, right? And I can name it anything, to be honest. Get book, right? And I would just simply use this instead. Here, I'll pass that here. I don't know what I pressed, but I would pass that in here. and then I'll just pass anonymous object. It creates that, and generally anonymous objects, it's good to create somewhere we do not want to have a concrete class backing. You just want sort of create an object like essentially in a thin air, so to speak. And this ID is going to be passed to this endpoint, right? And that's like going to be the book ID, this book, right? And the final one is going to be the book itself, right? Let's rerun it again, right? Let's post it back. This time it's telling me to one created, right? And I think inside the so the advantage of doing it this way, if you go to the console, inside the console it tracks like all your API calls. The last one is the post one, and if you go to the response header, you see the location that the object was created at. This was because we wrote the code something like this because it created a route um, by providing the get endpoint, the object the get endpoint needed, and the we passed the object that was created. Uh, so what's next? I guess it's put, right? Um, the logic isn't going to be very different, right? It's going to be put, right? This time going to be books. So I would copy the logic from, I would copy this, right? And this is going to be updated book, right? So we pass updated book, and I think this is going to be, once you pass the updated book, this is going to be existing book. So what we would like to do is existing book needs to be replaced, like accept the ID, the author, like I've forgotten the title, author. It's good to do in this order, I think. Right, that's that, but I'd only do this if If existing book is null, then at that point I would simply return result not found. Like if I haven't found the book with the matching ID, then in that instance I'm not going to go and change the book. If likewise we would just update it, but the input it's generally a practice to just send not found, right? That's that. So essentially what we're doing here is I pass the ID. For that ID we find a book, and if we find a book we call it existing book. We check if it's not, if it's null we just exit the method and return like not found without changing this. But if we do found, we just skip this and then like update whatever we have it in the existing and just again results. That's just a common way of doing it for the put method. And since this video is taking long, I would also in the same go, I would also do the delete a book. That would be map delete, and this time we just need an ID, right? To and the ID is something. So if you have sort of observed a pattern, is that we capture the ID in the header, we just would grab that ID, pass it as a parameter. That's our lambda, and that's that. Again, we will create a new object for the, and from the books we're gonna find out that matches this ID. Once we have found out the book, if book is not null, what I do is from the books I would remove that particular book, and once I've done that, if book is not null I would remove, otherwise I just ignore, this statement gets ignored, and in the return statement it's just no content, right? That's it. Let me run and test all these. So I guess the major ones would be putting a book, and to put a book, so in order to put a book, let first get a book. That's that, right? That's our first book. Let's update this, right? So if I have to update this, I'll get put, and I'll copy this here, just remove the ID, right? Because that's not something we are updating. So the title I would just update it, and I'll I will put that, and now I'll go get, and this time as you can see this has got updated. Let me delete, um if I go to delete, I want to delete this record. Let's delete that. Let's delete it. Let's get to get and okay, that's something weird. Like I went to delete, right? And so delete, I don't need a body. If I deleted that, method not allowed. Okay, let me have a look like what's wrong. All right, so I think I found out what was the issue. For some reason, instead of books, I've mentioned games. This should work now. If I launch the application, we had tested the put. Now let's test the delete one. So if I query, if I get the result right. If I delete this one, that's all good. Now if I get it again, cool. I do not found, but if I let's say do it for 2, I get the response back. And if I delete 2, that should be deleted. Let's get it back. Yeah, that's all gone. So that's pretty much it for this tutorial, and I'll see you with another one. Thank you.